Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of SuperFantaFi. This week's show, we're talking about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Doctor Who Season 14, Episode 3. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. There's silver linings to it, but it's still like a very overall depressing episode in a lot of manners. I mean, obviously, opening what we did, it's like two soldiers on the battlefield. I thought it was so interesting when, because it wasn't until they brought up divinity later on, and I was looking at it, and I was like, isn't that kind of like the white collar from a priest? And I was like, are these guys kind of priest soldiers? I was like, that's interesting, because even the doctor later on, she's like, when did the priest become army? He's like, all your life. It's like they've cut, like the way he was talking about it was almost like, oh, they technically always have been, but your life is such a blip that the time in your life where the church wasn't an army, it's just a blip of time. Every other time, the church has expanded out and become an army. I thought that's what he was kind of explaining to her, but either way, we had those soldiers, Carson and John. John's blinded, and he's using Carson to try and make his way back to base camp, talking to his daughter, which was, his main motivation for getting back to base camp, because she's with him. But they have to be careful because there's supposed to be a threat that they're fighting, and we don't actually know. This thing might be in the fog. We don't know. So, but it's like, no, the fog's been examined. It's just fog. But sadly, because when they saw something in the distance, I thought like, oh, maybe it's the TARDIS they're seeing, but it turns out it's an ambulance that they saw. In this world, ambulances are not good things, So the one guy, Carson, stepped on a mine that kind of disintegrated him, or like, what was it? Like, it rewrites your DNA, basically turns you into a bomb, and you basically explode. The only one left was John, but the ambulance was drawn by the conflict, because combat draws its attention of, oh, let me see who needs help, and it examines him. It's like, oh, his liver's inflamed, this and that, and his eyes, he has a temporary blindness right now, but it would take 4 weeks for him to recover, and it deems him, oh, like, rather than let you stay alive, you need to die, because it's more merciful to let you die than rather, and we get into that more later on, but I was like, what is that actually going to do? And he has to leave like a final message to his daughter, and he just simply says, kiss, kiss. And we see what happens to him later on. He gets tubed, as they say later on. Well, they don't actually say that. They use the term gathered, but that's just someone just dying in general. It's gathered up by God. But yeah, like, he gets tubed, which is like really depressing and disgusting, especially when Ruby's holding him later. You can basically see what looks like it's supposed to be his eyes, which is just very disturbing. But the doctor heard something going on, so he rushes out into the field and steps on a mine. Ruby follows after him, and the doctor, doing his best balancing act ever, is standing on one leg, because if he puts down too much weight, the device still hasn't ascertained whether or not he's really a target it needs to activate on. So it's at least, 4 fingers lengthwise of the device. So there's enough of a gap, but the doctor needs to compensate with the weight, kind of the Indiana Jones thing of you want to, it wasn't fully oh, I need to put something in my place, like we're replacing it with a boulder. It was never going to be something like that, because there's just not enough time to do that. Because the moment he gets off the device, it shifts his weight too much or whatever. Even it's reading his biometrics too. So it's even if his blood pressure or heart rate goes up too much, it's going to notice, and that kind of ticks the timer down as well. But Ruby refuses to lead the doctor. He's just like, right, you're brave, you're this, but God, are you incredibly stupid. And if we make it out of this alive, I'm going to be extremely cross with you. She's like, yes, but you're on a landmine. So, that might not even come to be. And just obviously the doctor wants her away from, it's this is my situation. I want you to be as far away from possible. That's why I said, toss it to me. And Ruby hands it to him, and he's able to put his leg down. So, okay, I'm able to balance. And that, because he wouldn't have been able to keep his leg up forever. Keeping it up as long as he did was hella impressive. So, but the problem is, during this whole situation, the tube gets activated, and John's AI comes out. Worst possible time, because his daughter Splice came out onto the field looking for him, which I'm I don't know how and why Mundy allowed that to happen, but I guess Splice kind of dragged her alone looking for her dad, because Mundy was out there with her. So I don't know. But then it's like, oh, Monday, meet Ruby. You and Ruby should get together because if you do, your name will be Monday Sunday. And he's like, I would have a laugh about it forever at your wedding and stuff like that. Doing everything he can to keep himself calm, whether it's like singing the song or saying that thing that he needs to lower his the pressure and stuff like that. Because Monday shows up, got a gun pointed at the doctor because she's like, yo, like, the fact is, you've got John. Well, because she initially walks up and sees Splicer with Ruby and the doctor, but like Ruby's like, "Don't get near him. Don't you see what he's on?" It's kind of like that kid was a little deranged, but I guess it's like, I guess your perspective on things, because it's supposed to be like a religious thing where it's just like your perspective on things have been a little skewed. Like maybe your perspective, for better or for worse, your perspective on death and not recognizing kind of like the weight of what's going on. Like later on, she just focused on the AI of her dad, just being like sitting down like, oh, this memory. I'm like, you're literally standing right next to a landmine. But I guess the argument has been like, they always assume like with the landmines, it's enough to kill the person. They're not really trickle out and affect too many. As long as you're not too close, it'll be fine. Like the Ruby being as close as she was to the doctor, sure. I don't know. I think Splicer would still be too close for, but you know. And Monday's immediately writing off the doctor, being like, well, you're dead. Like, there's no getting off that. Like, it's just a matter of time. There's a fail-safe that if it doesn't activate within a certain amount of time, regardless of what you're doing, it's still going to go off and you're going to die. And she wants the doctor to drop John. So it's like, right. I mean, I get it. It's come from a place of, I don't want, like, because who knows what that would do to that, to John in the state that he's in. If the doctor got, if the device did what it did and caused the doctor to explode. And so Monday was kind of going harder than paint. She was literally shooting the doctor's head to try and get him to drop it. But he's like, no, read my biometrics. The fact of the matter is, if this thing's going to like rewrite my DNA and make me into a bomb, I am high level advanced being. I will cause some mass destruction. And even Monday examining him is like, yes, you will blow up half this planet if you get turned into a bomb. And it's like, yeah, because everyone else here is on the same base level, life form wise, as like a human. So that's why you just impact like the extreme close vicinity of like yourself and maybe anything too close. But the doctor, it's like, if he explodes, everyone's dead, So it's kind of like, yeah, you want to keep him on that as long as possible. Sadly, the whole situation, I forgot what exactly triggered. Oh yeah, him getting shot brought the ambulance, and it tried to like, do something to the doctor, but it couldn't read anything about him. But it's like, we don't need it around the doctor, because if it does too much, it triggers too much, it could set off the landmine. So Ruby fires some shots to try and distract it with combat and tries to shoot Monday, but before she could, Kanto shows up. What's his name, Kanto or Kent? I think it's Kento or Kanto. And he ends up shooting Ruby by mistake because he thought like, oh, I thought she was adversary. Like, once again, Monday came out for Splicer, and Splice came out for her dad, and Kanto came out for Monday. So it's just it's a roulette of people just coming out chasing after the previous person because they care about them. And now Ruby's life is in danger. Now the ambulance is focused on her, and it's like, oh, like, Ruby, 32 years old, next to kin, and it can't figure it out. I thought we might tiptoe towards some answers this episode, but no, even it couldn't figure it out. And all of a sudden it starts snowing again because of Ruby. But the problem is she's starting to like fade out and she's dying. And it's like, oh, only a little bit of time before she dies. And so the doctor reveals everything because it's like, because Monday's like, well, what do we do? Like, we have to find a way to kind of like stop this landmine from going off because you will end up killing everything and everyone in the vicinity. It's interesting too because like this episode presented something I wasn't expecting the show to tackle, where he was talking about essentially the doctor has an issue with blind faith, and I was like, ooh. I mean, blind faith has pros and cons, where it's just like, it's a beautiful thing to have blind faith. You don't need something to believe in something. That's beautiful. That's powerful. It means a lot to people. But also having blind faith means you will follow something blindly and you don't realize like the consequences of it. You're just kind of like, yeah, like my fate take the reins, and I'm not going to have any autonomy in my own life. I'm not going to make my own choices. I'm going to live by like some other, so it's like, once again, it's give and take. There has to be an equilibrium. It can't just be all or nothing in a way. So I thought that was so fascinating that like the doctor would have that perspective on things. Like, I don't know if they've ever really I mean, once again, it's been a while since I've seen like all of Doctor Who. Like, obviously I see the seasons typically as they come out, so it's just like, and I rarely have seen them multiple times, so like, but I don't think I've ever really seen them tackle the subject of fate. I mean, maybe they've done that in the original run of the show, and maybe they have in the revival of, everything 2005 to present day, and I just don't remember. But I just thought that was kind of interesting. I was like, ooh, I could definitely see that comment and that aspect of like Doctor Who tackling that. I could see that pissing some people off. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Because blind faith isn't just solely associated with religion. I mean, obviously, like, bad things can have blind faith associated with them, like a cult. So, but the doctor reveals what this whole situation is about. It's like, oh, I guess because the doctor must be like, he never talked about it, but the creatures they're after, he's like, the fact is, you guys think they come from the mud or the fog. He's like, he must have had experience with those creatures. He's like, they're not on this planet. This landmine I'm on isn't theirs. It's yours. That's how I know if you guys called off this war, this would be all over. And she's like, what? That doesn't make any sense. And he's like, you, like, what happened when you first came to this planet? She's like, I forgot the exact wording she used, but she kind of like, yeah, like, try to make it seem we came in peace. And he's like, oh, you came here guns a-blazing, right? You've been up here trying to fight a threat that doesn't exist. This technology, the algorithm of this like technology exists to keep you going. It's meant to, life is cheap. Patients are expensive. So the moment it's like keeping you around, like, it's all about cost effectiveness and stuff like that. So that's why the ambulance ended up killing John when he like, oh, you'll be weak, you'll be blind for 4 weeks. That means you'll spend more money on taking care of him than it would be just to like kill him right now. Like, it's all about profits and stuff, and it's about perpetually keeping you like fighting. So you've been basically, because even the doctor says like this particular company, this arms company, basically has sold for like 2 centuries, sold weapons to both sides of a conflict just to keep the money going. And you keep people going, you keep them in war, you keep them fighting, you get them injured so that you can repair them. But then it becomes a thing of like, well, there's got to be a cap off of how many casualties are you willing to allow just to keep things going. Like, you have to equal things out to some extent. Like, a certain amount of casualties is acceptable to allow the continuation of the rinse cycle repeat of people go out, fight, get injured, potentially die, or get put back into healed up and put back on the field. It was really interesting. But Monday's like, I need proof of it. And it's like, oh, here you are, the person with, blind faith. Where's your blind faith, girl? But she's like, the person who has the authority to call off this war will need that blind faith. So you have Kanto, he's trying to mess with the ambulance so that, because it won't save or help Ruby because she's not with them, because like she's not registered as, what was it, Angelican. She's not registered as one of them, so she's kind of like not viewed as a non-believer, and because of that, it's not going to actually help her. And so they have to trick it into like helping her. So the doctor speaks to John, the AI, and is telling him like, yo, you can jump into me because I'm connected to you right now because I'm holding you. And this device is connected. You could go through me and into it and rework it and find out what you can find out. And even though John is like just an AI, it's not, it's elements of his personality. But the doc is like, I could just call him the doctor. It's like, it's from father to father, from a dad to dad. I know there's some part of you that's in there that wants to help, and he does ultimately, which I thought was beautiful. That even though, yes, he's an AI, there's still some, even in that state, there's still a little bit of his soul, a little bit of who he is, a ghost in a machine, if you will. And then you have the whole Kanto and Mundy conversation, because she's like, why'd you come out here? And she's like, do you like me? He's like, of course I like you. Everyone knows that I like you. Even the guy that I had to check the tattoo for thinks I like him now, even though, because like, yeah, you should have given me a warning that the tattoo you put on him will be on his leg. So it's like, oh, she's like, oh, so you like me? And he's like, yeah. So does that mean you like me? And in fact, she didn't immediately answer. I was like, ooh, and he kind of felt that way, but he immediately gets murked. I was like, Jesus, that's a quick turnaround, and that's depressing as hell. And even his final message is like, and I guess he had already preset this up to be like, hey, even if you don't love me, I love you. Even if you don't love me, that's okay. And that's the sad thing of, she cared for him, but she didn't feel the same way he did. I don't think. And maybe she did, and it's just the thing of, damn, you died believing that you loved me, but I didn't love you. Like, maybe she probably did have feelings. It's unclear, because she did hesitate, and maybe she was just scared to say how she felt. Or because you kind of think you have all the time in the world, when in actuality you don't. But it could also just be like, no, she legitimately didn't have the same feelings for him. It's unclear. Like, I think it could easily go either way when it comes to that situation. But it turns out that the algorithm, like, found John messing around and saw what Kanto was doing. That wasn't something Kanto did. It wasn't Monday's fault for distracting him. The AI, an algorithm, fought back, and it's trying to protect itself. All these other ambulances show up ready to hurt them. But at the last second, John came through and he shut everything down. And basically the message kind of went throughout the system of shutting this down. And he's like, oh yeah, wait till, and as the doctor says, like later on, like, oh yeah, wait till daddy gets home, because that company and its algorithm and stuff will be in serious danger, because it's like rippling out. Like, he got into the systems and he found stuff, and now he's kind of hijacked it and the algorithm, and he's kind of shutting it down. So the mind that the doctor was on was shut down. Ruby was luckily revitalized, and she's like, well, what's going on? He's like, well, it's kind of a lot to explain. He's like, I wonder, could I basically explain all of it? Like, he's like in a drum beat. I was like, it's kind of, once again, this Shooty's doctor's a little crazy, because like, even in the most dire situations, like, because I feel like the most jokey of the doctors, in my opinion, was probably Matt Smith. 11 could get dark from time to time, but he was very jokey, even in more dire situations. And I think Jodie Whittaker's 13 could kind of be like that too. But still, like, he seems the most, like, it seems almost psychotic how, like, giddy he could be, like, with everything that's going on. We literally had to deal with, hey, this girl's dad is dead right now, and that whole thing. And Monday just lost content. Like, it's a lot. And you almost lost Ruby, but she's okay. So, like, right, you're able to kind of stop this algorithm in its foot, and in its place, and everything kind of worked out. Hence the silver lining I was kind of referencing earlier. So, yeah. That was kind of a beautiful thing to celebrate. And then there's a conversation between Splice and the doctor where he's like, your dad is, your dad is gone. She's like, no, he's not. He's just dead, but he's not gone. And then, the doctor's like, right, that is nice. He's like, yes, he has an issue. I forgot the exact wording, but it was kind of like, yeah, he has his issues with faith, but kind of also like sometimes like not. I wish I could remember exactly what he said, because like, oh, it's gonna bother me because I don't remember his exact words, and it was so interesting. But let's get, it's that thing of, even though he's dead, he's not gone. It's like, as long as I still have like memories of him, like, once again, I always go back to like that what if episode. Episode 5 of season 1, the whole notion of, even if that person's gone, as long as there's someone around to remember them, they are never truly gone. I will always remember that, and that will always stick with me. And especially because the doctor says, like, even when someone is going, because like Ruby's like, yeah, but her dad is dead. Like, I mean, she's like, I get the faith of it all, of like, he's not going, but like, he is dead. And the doctor's like, yeah, but he talks about the fact is that even when someone's gone, the piece that remains, even just a little bit of it, is that of that person is love. And they even see with the AI turned to them and it waved. So it's like, there is obviously proof that there's still some parts of John in there. And it's like, yeah, thinking that, Splice will be okay because she has her dad, and even until she goes out and does whatever she needs to do or wants to do, she'll have Monday looking after her because her mom had already died, and her dad was like, "Yeah, we'll be with mom again." She was gathered to the Lord's side, but we'll eventually meet her again, and it's like, yeah. Even until the time comes that she's reunited fully with her mom and dad, she has Monday, and she also has like her dad with her to some extent, in that form. And it's like I said, even if it's just a fraction, even if it's just part of, there is some of him still there. So there's something very, very beautiful about it. As a doctor, because she is like, yeah, like, because the doctor was making a point very realistically of, we all die. It's just like the snow, we all melt away, which is also kind of sad because like I just remembered the term. The doctor was like, oh yeah, they were smeltered, I believe is what he used the term he used. Like, oh, new planet, new situation, new words. Look at me kind of go. And he's like, yeah, I've never really used the word smelter before. No situations come up where I've had to use it. But he uses it to describe the situation that these people's bodies are in under these circumstances. So, like I said, like, beautiful ending. Like, obviously, Monday, her Splice and her dad all looking at the stars. I mean, because obviously this was also from the surface level, this was um Ruby's first time seeing another planet. Because even though in a space baby situation, that was still like, even though that was in outer space, that was still Earth, I believe. The planet they were. No. It wasn't. It wasn't Earth. It was a different planet. But like seeing things on, being on another planet, looking at things, being on the outside in space is one thing. Being on a planet, being able to look up to a different sky and see crazy different things up there. This is kind of like the first time she kind of got swept up in all that with all the craziness that was going on this episode. So like I said, there's some beauty into all that sadness, and it kind of all kind of goes hand in hand in a lot of ways in some fashion. So yeah, just some very, very interesting developments. Kind of interesting episode. Interested to see where the next episode takes us with all of this. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.